Anyway, somewhat retro question here. Would it have been at all possible to provide a mid-generation upgrade during the seventh generation, especially given the problems they faced with performance? So what Doom Guy is suggesting here is that performance wasn't great on, I guess, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and he's not wrong. Should they have done a mid-generation upgrade? I don't know. It's an interesting one when you think about it, John, because when we look at the actual mid-generation upgrade, that came about because there were 4K screens coming along. And if you go back to the Xbox 360 era, there were 1080p screens that basically became the standard during that
Right, but
generation.
the consoles barely did 1080p outside of the 88 plus games I covered in that video.
Well, they
Uh,
barely
Hmm.
did 720p.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
at
actually
that
think
point.
a mid-gen refresh would have been amazing during that generation, especially on the PS3 side, where they could have conceivably gone back to Nvidia and actually had something competitive for the GPU. Like imagine if they had spun off like something, like the 9800 series or something into a new PS3. Keep the cell maybe up, speed it up a little bit in some ways, get that new GPU in there, maybe
Double the RAM.
at double the RAM at least, stuff like that. It would have helped so much with overcoming the problems because PS3 games just weren't running very well throughout most of the generation, unless they were conservatively simple,
Hmm.
conservative. But the thing is, though, is I don't think that business model was something that was widely accepted yet. The idea of doing that, it was already weird to do it a little bit this past generation, and I think people are more receptive to it now because of the popularity of smartphones and just like changing devices more often. But
Right.
back then, tough to say. I don't
I
know.
also think there would have been a financial viability issue
Yeah, that's also true.
because Sony and Microsoft they lost billions of dollars on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Uh,
Yeah, but if they
to
if they could have redesigned the 360, made it more powerful, and solved the overheating issues on one. No, I mean they still had to solve it on the original unit, so that wouldn't have fixed anything. But
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, interesting idea, and there is some merit to it, but I guess ultimately it is academic because it never happened. But I certainly think that the same criteria that made PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X viable probably could have been there. I think the
Come
other thing,
about.
of course, yeah, I think there was an argument for it, but I guess the idea just wasn't really on the table at that point.